Good morning. Welcome to another fabulous installment of our virtual seminar Grove. My name is Michael Barr. I'm the Education Director here at the festival. We are grateful for the Cedar City and Bryan Head Tourism Bureau for making this possible, and I am really excited about what we're going to be talking about today. Bryan, who do we have with us today?
Yes, thank you, Michael. Like you, I'm thrilled at our guests today. Today we are joined by Anne Tully and Larry Whitesell, who are the sort of key practitioners in our actor training program that we have had here at the Shakespeare Festival for, well, over 30 years now. And Anne and Larry are two amazing educators, but more than that, they're the most incredible human beings that a person could ever know. I'm incredibly fond of both of them. And so I'm thrilled that they're both here joining us today to sort of give us a little bit of the history of our actor training program, the genesis of it, what went into it, and also just tell some great stories in time gone by about the festival's progression over the last 30 plus years since they've been doing this program. And also just to sort of share the joy that is Anne Tully and Larry Whitesell. Our actor training, just to kind of give a little, well, Michael, you can give a little bit of background about the actor training program. It falls into our education department here at the Shakespeare Festival. And as everybody knows, Michael's our education director. And Michael, why don't you kind of give a little bit of background about the platform, and then we'll throw it over.
Absolutely. So we have a number of classes during the summer. Those classes did not start, and we're going to hear about the genesis here, until a wonderful visionary by the name of Phil Carter, who worked for, at that time, Southern Utah State College, reached out and said, wow, we've got this great Shakespeare Festival. We need to have classes that go with that. And so I'm going to let them tell the more detailed story, but actor training was born of that. And essentially, it's a residence class where teenagers, 17 on up, although you had adults and teachers and others who would participate in the program, they come and they are coached and given lessons, intimate lessons by the professional actors here at the festival, and they would facilitate that. It started first as a 10-day class, and then eventually we got down to kind of a 6-day class, but it was an actor intensive where they were able to see all of the plays. In addition to all of the plays, they were able to see firsthand instruction from the likes of some really great actors who we're actually going to talk about. The genesis of that program actually launched a number of other programs that included Shakespeare for Junior Actors, which is a model that was, in a sense, kind of replicated for 11 to 15-year-olds. And then there were a number of other classes that followed after that. But the first classes, the first courses that were ever offered was the actor training course. And it still continues now. Well, not in COVID, but we'll be back with a vengeance next year.
But yeah, I mean, I do want to, sorry to jump on you there, but they're both from Arizona. I want to give a little bit of an insight into this. I'm from Arizona also. I grew up in Phoenix, Arizona, and went to high school in Arizona. And Anne Tully was a high school drama teacher at Camelback High School. And Larry, am I correct on that? I'm correct on that, right? And Larry Whitesell was a high school teacher at Shadow Mountain, and various other, but two key players in high school drama education in the state of Arizona, and have held numerous platforms. But welcome to the show. And maybe the two of you could kind of give a little bit of background about yourself and how this whole program came about. It's got a great history and has impacted a lot of people over the years, and I'd love to hear a little bit about how it all started.
Thank you. I taught at Camelback High School for 30 years, and I might as well tell this right away. And one of my students at Camelback High School was Larry Whitesell. And so
her second year.
My second year of teaching. So even though I'm sure I look very younger than him, I still was his teacher. Anyway, I've known him since he was, 16, and Bryan since he was 16. So I've spent a lot of time teaching theater in Arizona. And since I retired, I stayed in theater and have been directing all these years too.
Cool. Yeah, and Anne has also directed our school tour, which has gone out a I think maybe more than once, maybe twice. Or,
Yes, I did 2 years in a row. Yes,
Yeah.
and that was an incredibly fun experience. Yes.
Great. So Larry was a student of yours, and then Larry, give us a little bit of background about your journey into high school drama.
Well, I decided to be a theater teacher. I've been involved in theater since I was in 5th grade, but I decided to be a theater teacher because I kind of valued having a steady paycheck and a roof over my head rather than being a professional actor. And I was fortunate to be hired in the second year that Shadow Mountain High School was opened, and had great fun there, and got to meet Brian at that point when Brian went to Horizon High School, which was another high school in the same district as Shadow Mountain. Had the pleasure of directing Brian in Hello, Dolly. He was Cornelius Hackle for us in a community musical that we did.
That's right.
Great fun. But I was there at Shadow Mountain for 15 years, and then I went on to become the fine arts coordinator for the school district for the following 12 years, and then retired because I knew that there were other bigger, better things out there in the world for me. But all the time from 1986 until 2015, the Utah Shakespeare Festival was our constant summer getaway. We left our work at in schools in Arizona to come and have fun and play and work at the Utah Shakespeare Festival. So to me, it was the highlight of my career, really, educationally and personally. So I'm deeply grateful for that experience. So let's talk a little bit about how we actually got started in Utah.
Yeah,
I was fortunate to work with an amazing woman named Barb Barrett. And we actually have a picture of Barb Barrett. I don't know if it would be appropriate time to show that, if we can cue that up. She was a teacher, an art teacher at Shadow Mountain. I was the department chair at the time. She was looking for a master's program. There she is. She was looking for a master's program for summer that didn't charge summer tuition. And she found Southern Utah State College, which of course is the precursor to Southern Utah University. She took classes there in the summer of '85 and met the gentleman that Michael has already spoken of, Phil Carter, who was one of Barb's teachers, professors. And he was a visionary and Barb was a visionary. And when you get two visionaries in the same room, watch out because good things can happen. Phil had always had a dream of providing some economic resources for Brian Head during the summers because it's a ski resort, but they had downtime in the summertime. So he and Barb envisioned a fine arts high school academy, basically, that would be housed at Brian Head. It would include theater class, it would include art class, it would include dance and music. We would use the day lodge as our classroom space. Violet Carter, Phil's wife, did meal prep for us. We stayed in condos. The first year we were up at Brian Head and we stayed in condos and up there, and it was wonderful and beautiful. And so our day consisted of getting up, driving down the mountain in vans with our class. And I actually sent a picture of our first class. I don't know, I didn't see it in the PowerPoint, so I don't know if it's possible to show it. But we would drive our class down to the festival activities in the morning, a seminar, a post-show discussion. We'd drive back up the hill, have class, and then drive back down at night for the shows that at that time started at 8:30, and then drive back up the hill to sleep. And then we drive back down the hill the next day for seminars and so forth. It was I was the van driver. It was a lot. We were spending 3 hours on the road every day.
Yeah.
And so after that first year, although we wanted to support Phil's vision, it just wasn't efficient, for us time-wise. and for my nerves, basically. So we moved the program down to campus at that point. But, and
Go back to how we.
Louder, outdoor voice.
oh,
Okay.
how Barb got us started.
How Barb got us started.
Yeah, so Barb comes back from summer school and says, Larry, I have been in the most beautiful place on earth called Cedar City, Utah. And I said, where's that? And she said, it is magnificent. I've met this great man named Phil Carter, and we have this vision of starting the summer program. And she said, and there's this great Shakespeare festival. I'm like, really? I've never heard of that. It's 450 miles away. I'm in theater all my life. I've never heard of the Utah Shakespeare Festival. She happened to be in the building that was the education building at the time. I don't know what it's the Braithwaite building.
Yep.
Looking out a window, and she saw the costume seminar being rehearsed on the grass behind the Adams Theater. And she's like, Phil, what is this? He goes, oh, that's the Utah Shakespeare Festival costume seminar. And she went, I think I need to know more about that. So she went down and learned all about the festival. She said, Larry, you've got to come. You just got to come. And we want you to start a class in theater. She was going to do a class in art. She was going to get a dance teacher. She was going to get a music teacher, and we were going to do this. Well, my background was not in Shakespeare at all. I said, Barb, I really don't know if I want to give up my summers, but let me see if I can find someone else to help. Is it okay if I find somebody else to help? And she said, sure. So I turned to Anne and said, what do you think about going up and just seeing what this is all about? And maybe starting a 1 year, try this for 1 year. And she said, maybe. I'll talk to my husband. And miraculously, he said, okay. And
little did he know that you would be gone the next 30 summers.
Right.
Exactly. They'd been married for 3 years.
Wow.
When she leaves, it's almost like same time next year.
So
Yeah.
So you go up the mountain, then you decide to do it down here, and they stay in the dorms. The
Right.
class is held actually out on the grass and around the areas there. I know
Correct.
you've told fun stories about, eating in the cafeteria, or how will we feed these students, and, figuring out how all of that would work. Should we look at the pictures so you can see some of the caliber of the actors that you had working there? Do you want to look at those now?
Yeah, I mean, I want to talk about that. I mean, like, one of the things that I found so great about this was the idea, and maybe you could speak to this, is that the coaches would be the acting company, that these students would come, they would travel to Cedar City, they would take up residence. And one of the perks of this training program was it's kind of an all-intensive actor training world. It's immersion, full immersion for this, journeyman actor, like trying to both sort of, you kind of live, breathe, and eat, sleep Shakespeare. You're seeing all the plays, you're doing classes during the day, which is a combination of what? Text analysis, voice and speech, stage combat, all those things during the day, seeing the productions in the afternoons and the evenings, and sort of all the plays in the thing. But the key ingredient was they would be coached by members of the acting company, correct? Like, they would take individual scene work, we'd break these groups up into, we do monologues or we do scene work with the team, but you're coached by the actors that are there in every given season. So what I found personally is, as an actor in the company, is it's just as rewarding for the actor in this whole process than the student. It really is a learning experience for everyone. The coaches learn so much about themselves, but also these students who are like sponges in absorbing this stuff. And they could spend all this amazing time here in Cedar City, and also get to meet Larry and Ann, the acting company. And there's many stories, which I know we'll talk about, over the years, all the actors who have grown incredibly fond of both of you, because you're such also great hosts and human beings. and generosity of spirit was sort of infused in this program, which was really about getting people to be stronger at doing Shakespeare, and really embracing what these plays are. So yeah, I just a little background about that, about the actors, but why don't you give us a little slideshow?
Yeah, let's look through the slideshow, and I want you to identify. So who is that? We know who that is.
Our good friend Leslie Brott.
So there's Leslie Brott teaching, and I want
Text
our
analysis.
Yeah, isn't that wonderful that, I can see archetype in the background. I can see her identify. Yeah, she's doing text analysis with them.
From forth the kennel of thy womb hath thrust thee. That's what she's doing.
Yeah, good.
So I'd like for Anne to talk for just a little bit to kind of extend on Brian's comments about why we created the program that we did, because it was different and unique from what was available for high school students at the time. And both of us being high school theater teachers, we saw what programs were available and we wanted to kind of fill a gap. So I'd like for Anne to talk about that.
So what we did was we didn't want to do a class. Is that better?
Better.
Okay. We didn't want to do a class that was similar to what the students in high school were offered during the summer. So we were trying to avoid those classes where students would go and do a play and somebody would be the lead and somebody would be the spear carrier. We wanted all of them to have an equal opportunity to learn and present. And so we came up with this idea of doing a class where everybody did a monologue and a scene, and they would have an opportunity to have training, as Brian has told you, in voice, movement, stage combat, all of these things. And we wanted them to feel like when they walked away from this, that they had all had an equal chance. One of the things that we did with the class was at the end of the class, rather than trying to do a full production, they each did a scene and monologue. And the actors who had coached them during this 10 days came and watched their presentations. And then after their presentations, they would critique them. Not, they were awfully kind, but because they were actors and they knew how difficult this is to do.
They were nurturing.
Yes, they were very nurturing. And so we called this final process works in progress. In other words, when you work on Shakespeare, which is the greatest tool in the world for an actor to learn how to use text and all of the things that are important to an actor, was that the process of education or learning continues years and years. In fact, Brian will tell you that he's still learning, even though he's done most of the major parts in Shakespeare's plays. It's just a continual process. And we wanted to make sure that the students understood how important that was, and that you weren't just giving a final product, and that you walked away and came back later to this same work and you would find something new in it, and as you grew and as you had more life experience. So that was our philosophy as far as the class was concerned.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, that's one of the things I think is the key ingredient to this whole thing is its process, and it's like growth comes from more growth and more observation and taking these tools. We've talked about that in other seminars about an actor's toolbox and the sort of things that they have at any given time. And a lot of this is just that. They're learning little things to put into their own type of their own development, their own technique that they're going to apply down the road, whether it's, how they deal with text analysis or embracing a character, driving through the lines, the ends of phrases. But also like for a high school student, what I found so appealing is you get to see the plays. You see the actors doing this. You see them you're watching them in process, them in performance, them learning, and then taking the same stuff that they may be seeing their amazing coach do. And then the next day, that coach is talking to them out on the lawn or wearing shorts and drinking coffee and talking about, Oberon and Titania and all these characters and how the language or the meter might impact stakes or actions and all these things. And such a beautiful thing. One of my very fond memories is there was a great image of Lawan Alexander, who was an incredible actor, played Othello here and Oberon, and was such an amazing presence. The spirit that he was giving those students in some of those interactions was so uplifting and encouraging for young people to hear that it's possible for them to do the same thing that Lawan, who is like, bellowing out in the Adams Theater and filling that space. These young kids are like, oh my gosh, can I do that? To have another actor say, yes, you can, and you will,
Yes.
is everything, and so many beautiful stories like that are really wonderful. Yeah, Michael,
Well, she's going to say something. Go ahead, Anne.
Well, I wanted to tell you the fun part of all of this, how we got involved with the actors.
That's the question.
We have access to actors.
Yeah, because
This was not in our plan at all, because we were clear up on Brian Head, and so we never thought about actors coaching them. So, but we did have to come to campus to eat, and lunches, and we happened to have in this first group very attractive young high school ladies. And we were eating in the cafeteria, and they recognized a couple of the actors who were also there. And so the actors recognized them. So they got together and started talking, and the two actors asked them what they were doing here. And they explained about the class and that they were up at Brian Head and they were learning Shakespeare. And in fact, this was Frank Garish and Chris Fleer, yeah. And so
neither of you know Frank, but
yes,
Chris.
Yeah, I know Chris Fleer. Yeah.
Well, they said, "Oh, that sounds wonderful. Can we help?" And Larry and they came back to ask our permission, and we said, sure. And so they came up to the mountain and coached. And there was another actor who came and taught stage combat. So it was all an accident that this happened, that the actors got involved.
I mean, I love that story because it tells you the kismet and the fate, but it also tells you about the open heart and spirit of these two educators creating this class saying, let's do that. So talk about year two. So year two, you want to do that. How do you establish the funnel of actors to come in and be a part of this?
Well, fortunately, we met another very important person who made sure that this was really good for the students, but also good for the festival, and that's Scott Phillips. Mm-hmm. So we're down on campus, going to seminars or whatever, and Scott comes up. He didn't recognize us, didn't know who we were, asked what we were doing, and he said who he was, and we said, oh, we have had such a great time because these actors from the festival came up and helped our class. He goes, oh, would it be helpful to have actors from the festival work with your kids? And we were like, yeah. He goes, that's perfect, because in those days there was only the Adams Theater.
Yeah.
So there were only 3 plays. There were 3 or 6 evening shows.
No matinees.
2 matinees. There were 2 matinees.
Yep.
And the actors had a lot of free time. And Scott was like, the actors would love to have something to do. And we would love to have them do something. So that became the connection between the real coaching, the planned coaching opportunities, and it just grew from there.
Right.
We also, of course, were fortunate to have support from the theater department, the SUU theater department, Some of the professors there would come and do voice classes with the students and so forth. So there's always just been this really great symbiotic relationship.
And when we first started,
Hmm.
did you, I don't know if you have this picture that is of our first class. I thought we sent it, but maybe not.
Yeah.
But I don't think, can you see that?
Yeah, there's the first.
You can't see that.
Yeah, the first
Yep,
class.
yep.
There's glare on it.
Yeah. Why don't we look at the rest of those pictures that you have there and talk about some of the actors that you have there? Go ahead. Did you have something else you wanted to say,
Well,
Ann?
the reason I wanted you to see the picture was because that first year was also the first year of Jeff Leader, who was the costume director. And so Jeff was instrumental, was kind of forced, I guess, to give us costumes for the students. We asked him. Barb was very instrumental in this. And so we costumed them back at the beginning. And
Yeah.
through Jeff. And
That
of course,
changed.
yeah.
That changed philosophically. I mean, you
Oh,
started.
definitely.
I
Yes,
found that interesting. In the early days, you did that. And then again, as you grew, you went, wait, we're working on text, we're working on body. It's not about
right.
costumes. We're
Right.
performing in blacks. And it became that.
Yes. It
But
was
let's
wonderful. Go
pull up
ahead.
and look at some of those. Okay.
Okay.
And I appreciate you giving Jeff Leader a shout out too as well.
Well,
We saw his first costume seminar.
yes.
So
Right.
Yeah, so this is just a typical coaching session. Joe Cronin, one of the wonderful actors at the festival, is working with a group of 3 ladies on a scene. Our classroom was any nook and cranny they could find around campus. We can go to the next slide. So these early ones are just coaching. This is Michael Harding, awesome. He gave his heart and soul every free minute to our groups for years.
while
And
we're working at this, the other thing I love about this is you have a range of students who are 17 all the way up to teachers, to people who are looking for more professional actor training.
correct.
5-year-olds, older than that, actually. I mean, there's
Our oldest student was 71.
Yeah. Well, and
He took the class twice.
which means he started when he was 70.
He did, well, I think it might have been 71, 72. And
Well-
he wanted to play Hamlet.
Hey,
That-
anything's
So we're
possible.
like, you know what? Let's go for it.
Yeah.
He did Hamlet as his monologue first year.
Well, that's the other dance that I don't think is celebrated enough with anyone who teaches this class, whether it's the two of you, whether it's Jan and Andy Hunsaker, whether it's Michael Eaton. You get to meet these students and have a very brief period of time with them, and you have to make sure that they're cast appropriately, that you're stretching them. And then you had to make sure that they had the right coach. And I know there was a lot of time taken. Okay, he would work better with this group. This person would work better here. She would be, flourish better in this group. So that whole casting dynamic was really, I think, one of the things that kept this class unique. We can look at the next slide too as well.
Yeah, I also want to say, like, they're not doing all easy material either. You know, I mean, it's very easy to go, oh yeah, you're going to do. I mean, I only say easy in the sense that they're as accessible, like A Midsummer Night's Dream, or Romeo and Juliet, the ones that a lot of high schoolers they may know other than others. You'll receive, oh, you're doing Coriolanus, and you're doing a scene from Measure for Measure, and you're going to be doing a scene from Henry VI, Part 3. And for the coaches, even sometimes it's like, holy crap, I gotta bone up on this play. I'm not sure I know this play, you know.
Yeah.
And that's
We
what's
just
great.
threw scripts at the actors, you know, who were coaching, and they're like, oh my goodness.
Yeah, King John. I think I know King John, but I think I need to go back and read King John, you know. And it's great because it challenges everyone, you know.
But I want the audience to remember that there was a time before there was the internet. So when they would pull in their truck, there were boxes of books, because if you have 30 people in those classes and you're learning from them, you're not just throwing a scene at them. You can't go to the internet. So that's, I mean, there are 3 to 4 to 5 boxes of complete works of William Shakespeare's that they're studying and working out of. Again, me being a bibliophile, I just loved seeing all those texts. And on that first day, all of the monologues spread out. So really, and by the time you got to the end of your legacy, I mean, you had the system down and you were able to pull monologues and kind of go from there. This is a picture of, there's the old Adams there.
Yep.
And
we did the works in progress on the Adams, which the kids, just loved being able to use that space. This is Kate McCall and Peter Zazzali, who one was coaching monologues, one was coaching scene for the same student. So that was the other, I think, beauty of this program is every student got coaching from 2 different actors. One coached the scene, the other coached the monologues. And in this case, the 2 actors decided to work together in the final days to coach jointly with the students. So, we gave a lot of leeway on how the actors wanted to arrange the time and the working sessions.
Right.
So just awesome.
And you had to, and then again, really great educators who know how to, I call theater, the art of dealing with it. All of a sudden we add other matinees and we add the Randall Theater. And then now this machine, I mean, the actors are really, really busy. How are we going to, make sure that they can still engage with the students and still, do what they're here for, do the plays, etc. I love this picture too, because you see her taking that instruction there as well.
Yeah.
Next
slide.
Right now on Facebook, you're getting a string of really great memories, people just talking about all the great memories. No questions yet. So if there's any questions, if anybody wants to ask a really tough question about 30 years of text, you can ask those questions, but you'll be able to look back at those things that they're saying. Let's look at the next slide. Again, I love this. And who is that, Anne?
Martin Kildare.
Say it again, louder.
Martin Kildare.
Right. Yeah.
Martin, he was Martin Robinson when he first started at the festival when he was a kid.
Before Equity.
Yes, and he's working with them on either scenes or monologues. Text.
Yeah. What a beautiful classroom too, right?
Awesome.
Yes.
Yeah.
Couldn't ask for a better classroom.
Yep.
Yes. Yeah. Next slide. No.
Yep. Next slide. There you go.
This is stage combat. So the students all got to, well, we had special, what we called special sessions. And so the students would work with another actor. So we would have an actor who taught stage combat. We had a different actor who taught voice, a different actor who taught movement, and a different actor who taught green show. So they got exposed to many people in the acting company. And so when they went to see the shows, they knew everybody. Mm-hmm. So that, and it was a nice experience for them to see them as people and as actors on stage.
I want to talk about where these students came from too, because initially it started quite locally. And by local, when I tell my peers and other organizations that our audience comes from 12 hours away, that's Utah, Nevada, Wyoming, Arizona, et cetera. So they're coming locally, but very quickly it became kind of a national following. And I would love to get the programs and see where all of these students, were coming from too, as well.
Actually, our first year, most of our students were either from Camelback or Shadow Mountain. We had one student from Apollo here in town in Phoenix, and we had 2 adults who were from Utah. I don't know exactly where they were from. Later through the years, we had students from Alaska. We had students from India. We had a student from Brussels, Belgium. We had a student from Australia. And they searched online. We're in internet days now. They searched online for summer programs and found our program and decided that was where they wanted to spend their time during the summer. So we were really fortunate to have literally kids from mostly from the United States, but truly from all over the world who ended up joining us.
Yeah, good. Next slide.
So we did part of Stage Combat for our Part 2 students. We started out with actor training Part 1. We had students who wanted to take the class again, and we offered college credit through SUU for the classes. So we needed to create an upper level class. So we called it Actor Training Part 2. The Part 2 kids in Stage Combat would use quarterstaffs. Now, we didn't really have access to authentic quarterstaffs, so we just went down to the lumberyard and got some dowels, which worked just fine. So we put some weapons in their hands, and this is really important, not just for the art itself, but for what it does for an actor as far as concentration, connecting with your partner, making eye contact, making sure you're communicating, purposeful movement, such just great background training, even though you'll never do a stage fight potentially. Just great basic underlying training for an actor.
Mm-hmm. And what would you do? Every year, we are fortunate to have actors that are trained in stage combat. Right. And so you would, I'm just going to ask this question and we'll let it go wherever it goes. How did you recruit the actors? How did you recruit them?
Am I answering
this?
Go
ahead and answer that.
Well, we went through you and through the education department. There was information in their mailboxes about volunteering to do this. Larry and I are very social people, and so we love to entertain. And so we invited some of the actors, particularly the ones we already knew, and to bring their friends along. And so we would entertain them
post-show,
after a show, and ask them if they wanted to get involved. And they were all very enthusiastic. The generosity of the actors was amazing. Yeah. And at first, they received no remunerations. So it was.
Wow. So let me say that again. So the first beginning years, the actors were not paid. They were here doing their plays, and they were not paid to do that.
Correct.
How many years? Was that 5 years?
Oh, it's much longer than that. Yes.
I know when they started being paid.
But yes, they were doing it for free, and they were just because they loved to. And I will say this, as time went along, actors got more and more busy, and it was more and more difficult.
Correct.
To get involved in our program. But we always seemed to find enough people to do the job, and everyone was so willing. And it was great. Yeah.
Creative and adapt. Good. Let's do the next slide.
Movement class.
You can. And there was such a wide range of students too, as far as background experience. Some of them were very experienced, and some of them had never been on stage before, and they were all in the same class. So it was kind of exciting to see that, plus the age difference, and they were from all over. So it was a great experience for them, not only working with the actors, but working with each other and learning about each other.
Well, and I know that after 30 years, you began to see many of these actors, some become professional actors, some become directors, some become teachers. I mean, a long legacy of that as well. I have a really great question from Tom that I'm going to get to when we're done with these, that's along that line. When we're done with the video. And I think, I'm not sure if there's another picture there or not, Richard. Yep, there we go. What is this?
This was a movement workshop where the coach was trying to break down inhibition. So you could feel free to move. I'm not sure, what the exact direction was here, but they worked with masks quite a bit just for the idea of being anonymous and not having to use your face for all of your acting, that you can use your body to tell a story as well.
Cool.
So you really, acting is about storytelling, and we want to use, our face, our mind, our body to tell the story. So they were learning how to tell stories using other than their face.
Cool. Great. Great mask workshop. And mask
Yeah.
workshops are actually a fundamental of a lot of theater programs. I was thrilled when I saw this because you see how easy it is to make those masks out of.
Yeah, it's paper plates.
Yep. So we can do that. Even in COVID masks. And what do we have here?
This is green show techniques. So people, a couple of actors from the green show would come in, and particularly on Sundays when all the actors weren't working, so they would sacrifice their Sunday, which was their only day off, and come work with our students and teach them a dance or a song from the green show.
Ryan, do you know who's in the middle? That's Danny somebody. He was in the green show many years.
Yeah,
It's hard to see.
it is.
Nope.
Raise your hand if you knew that Brian started at the festival as a green show performer.
Yes, it's true.
Yeah.
I'm
No,
glad you mentioned the green show technique thing, because I think, there are skill sets in there that are unique to training. Just
Absolutely.
obviously the movement portion of this, but also the improv elements of things, and interacting with an audience, juggling, all these skills that sometimes will go down in your special skills on your resume, but they're building blocks again for
Right.
especially in the audience interaction, which I do think is a big thing that young people especially, learn from their own comfortability of and in themselves, being grounded and interacting with people.
Yeah. And our students often said the green show was their favorite special session that they did. That and stage combat seemed to be very popular.
Yeah.
And I think what you're telling me is, while they all look like kids to our young audience, you got two professional actors engaging that close in that face-to-face contact with them.
Right.
Again, I think that celebrates the intimacy and the engagement of the actors while they're working with these students. So yeah, wonderful.
Well, I do want to mention, I know many people who come to the festival, and to the person, they describe the festival as being just that. They love the festival because of the feeling that you belong there, that you are part of something that is wonderful. You feel at home, you feel connected. The festival has always embraced welcoming people in. And that is something that Fred started, 60 years ago, and it goes on today. So this is an example of it. It permeates the whole, the whole character of the festival. So congratulations, for creating such a wonderful, welcoming place for everyone.
Yeah. I like these next pictures. Let's go to the next slide here, because it shares, again, these are special actor. Look, we have a very young, Larry. We see the back of Larry's head there. Well done. And that, we've had him as a guest here. That's Renee Thornton. And you also have Paul Barnes, an amazing director, who has been a leader in the industry. And they're doing, what are they doing? What's this?
This is a discussion of the play that they've just seen. So they would come in the morning after they saw a production at the festival and let the students question them either about the play or their training or their background. And we were fortunate not just to get the actors, but we also got a lot of directors come in, and that helped them to have a different insight to the plays. So it was pretty exciting.
This is also a really important part of the class, but I would love to know about how that happened. Again, I think these are two great educators who go, hey, why don't we do this? In other words, we have the seminars. The seminars had existed since the late 60s. We had the orientations as well, which existed with the very first play. But saying, wow, we can create a more intimate essentially seminar experience in a face-to-face experience. So when did you begin that? When did that start?
Way back when. I can't remember. I think we started it at the very beginning.
No, I don't think, I think
No.
we went to the regular seminars that
Oh,
the
that
festival
was
would
it.
do
Yeah.
for 2 or 3 years. And we realized that our students had a different level of question than just an average patron.
Correct.
I was always impressed with the things that patrons would say. You know, so intelligent, such a great patron base at the festival, and the students learned a lot from that. But the level of questioning was different. The area of questioning was different because it was coming from an actor point of view or an actor trainer point of view rather than just an audience member.
Mhm.
So again, because Ann and I had students who had gone in our regular programs who had paid $1,000 to go see 2 shows in New York, and they might have the chance to talk to an actor afterwards or do a tour of the theater. We thought, okay, I think we could possibly bring in actors to do these post-show discussions instead of going to the regular seminars.
Mhm.
And that evolved maybe in the 4th or 5th year
Right.
after we realized our students could benefit more from this kind of personal discussion than the regular patron seminars.
Correct.
Yeah,
Correct.
they have access to the insight into what's going
Yeah.
on through your relationship, but also, yeah, they get a little bit more immediate question and answer
Yeah.
insight into the process and the show.
I
And
want
they
to-
got to ask more questions. You know,
Yeah.
when you've got an audience base of 100 out in the seminar grove is different than when you've got 30 kids in class and 3 or 4
Right.
professionals there to respond.
I want to make sure we celebrate the other actor too. Who is the other actor in the hat?
That's John Pasha, I believe.
Cool.
I
Cool.
think you're right, Brian.
Good.
I think this is
Good.
Phillips.
And next slide. So what is this? There's Brian Vaughn in a USF hat and Mary Dolson, and you got Leslie. So what is this?
It's another post-show discussion, probably a matinee. After matinees, this was when the Randall was open, obviously. After the matinees, we would immediately leave the theater and go out into the yard and grass area and tree area where the picnic benches were set up and do our post-show discussions immediately after, not the following morning. So Mary and, I don't know, this may have been,
It's the-
Might have been either Arsenic or Hay Fever, or one of those
yeah,
shows. I
it's one of
remember.
those.
Yeah,
I think it's
Good.
hay fever.
yeah,
And-
I think Hay Fever also.
And the next slide.
I would kind of moderate the discussion. I would make sure that a student couldn't monopolize the discussion. I would try to call on people to respond or to ask questions in kind of an organized manner so that we made sure everyone had an opportunity.
But
Right.
this is another
Right.
Show discussion. I think that's Dan
Danforth.
Cummins in there.
Yeah, Danforth is in the USF hat. Yep.
Yep.
Yeah.
Kern
Kern
McFadden.
McFadden.
Mhm.
But again, this is another sort of post-show discussion with members from the acting company who would come
Right.
and talk to them. It's terrific.
Next slide.
And I think we have one more picture after this, I think.
Okay.
So this is a discussion of actor comments after the work's in progress. So they would assemble, there's Brian reading tea leaves, I think. They would, the students were all sitting in the audience area of the Adams, and then the actors would give some oral comments about the work that they had just seen. The students do with their scenes and monologues.
Good. Cool. Thank you, Richard. So I want to ask a question that Tom asks. He says, many of us that took the classes did continue as actors, directors, writers. What would you say were the benefits for students who did not go on to creative careers? And they were also legion. There were many people who are not becoming, professional actors or directors. So what were the benefits to them? Oh, good and loud again. It's your computer. It's not you, Ann. Go ahead. Good and loud.
I can project. I've had so many students, not just from the actor training class, class, but from my experience teaching at Camelback, who come back and say, I never became an actor, but I became a lawyer or a doctor or a healthcare worker or something that some job that you had to connect with the public. And they would say, my experience at the actor training class helped me to have the self-confidence to talk to people and really made a difference in my life as far as communicating with other human beings.
And to me, as a theater teacher, early in my career, I thought, what is it about theater that is more important than just the content of theater? What is it that any average kid in a high school should get out of this class, even if they'll never be on stage? And so I found collaboration was an important overarching goal of mine, to teach them how to collaborate, even with people that they may not like, even with people they might butt heads with, throughout the day. But when they came to my class and they had to work on a scene together, they learned how to collaborate. They learned how to problem solve. That's another key thing here, I think. Creativity, imagination, listening. Really important skill is listening. So there are some really important life skills that you gain if that's what the focus is. I got real tired of figuring out, well, what's important about learning stage right and stage left, Yeah. And it's those overarching ideas or concepts that I think is critical for people to learn, no matter what you do afterwards in your adult life.
That's terrific. There's another question here which I think is great and should be recognized. You guys obviously had an amazing trajectory, and 30 years of devotion with this project. And I know that from 1986 to 2015, you were here every single summer, organizing and facilitating this program in conjunction with our education department, and obviously your time and energy in that. A question that Janet has, which is, what is the program like now? How many students are still able to participate? And we should acknowledge, that post your retirement from actor training program, not retirement in life, because I know you two are probably busier than all of us here combined, but the program still carried on and still has. And I know Andy Hunsaker and Jan Shelton who have taken that over, and they've been amazing educators in the state of Utah, and they have then now carried over in organizing the program. What is the program like now, and how many students are able to participate?
So I think it's important to share this in front of them too, because the advantage of being a part of this class for 30 years is you have wisdom, and you know that sometimes the classes are very, very large, and then sometimes they would wane. I remember Anne saying, we only have, 18 students this year. That's okay, Michael. That's okay. We can get intimate, with that. And then there would be other years where we'd have 35, 40, and because that's, more difficult. The program has continued under their leadership. I also want to celebrate Stuart Shelley, who both Stuart Shelley was there in that first year after Ann and Larry left. And it has remained steady at about 25 to 30 students. And we've had to do different variations over the years. I think Ann and Larry, because I know I spent how many years? About 15 years with you, and we saw the same thing happen. So sometimes we would have 2 sessions that would go on, and then we'd say, no, we're just going to have 1 session and we'll push everybody into 1 session. Oh, no, we need 2 sessions to make that happen. And what the summer program looks like now, or look like in 2019, there were 2 classes, Shakespeare for Junior Actors, which is the 11 to 15-year-old class, which a wonderful gentleman by the name of Michael Eaton created that program after the birth of the actor training program. And it and actor training worked in tandem with one another. So somebody could take Shakespeare for Junior Actors and they would move along to the actor training class. presently, the schedule we have for next year is we've got 1 week planned of actor training, and we have 2 weeks planning in Shakespeare for junior actors. And the world has kind of changed. There's a lot of demands that are being made on teenagers. You got to grow up a lot faster, got to be ready for college a lot faster. There were other actor training programs that used to exist at some of our sister organizations. And even those, I'm talking about Stratford, I'm talking about Oregon, even those have kind of adapted and changed through this time. Generally at 17 or 18, sometimes it's tough. People have to be earning money for college and that. But we've still been able to maintain what I would say about that 25 to 30 students. Wouldn't you say that's true? What did you find, Ann and Larry?
As far as the size changed constantly, and we just adapted to that.
Mm-hmm.
And the needs of the students were different. I did want to say something, though. We do have a scholarship program for
Correct.
those who happen to be watching that might be interested in taking the class. When I retired from teaching at Camelback, we started a scholarship fund through the university. And then when that was in 1995, in 2001, Larry added to that. So now it's called the Tully Whitesell Scholarship, and it is available to help with the tuition. So there are lots of ways to get financial help. So finances have something to do with it too, but I wanted everyone to know that there is help.
Correct. Well, so look, so we got 2 people who spend 30 years of their life plus in the classroom. And then when they get done, they take a whole portion of the money that they've earned in those great teaching positions and then donate it to an endowment fund so that we can do that. But you are absolutely right. And money should never be a reason for a kid not participating in this program. Because not only do we have that scholarship program, but we've added some other scholarship programs. And so there are ways to get students here. And we had many teachers who would say, myself included, who would say, once a kid gets done in this program, they are a huge asset in my theater program, and they share the joy with everybody else. So when I send my kids, and there were, again, I'm thinking of Paul DeLella, who listens to us frequently, and many others who would go to the county and say, can I send 10 of my students to this class? And he would get funds to make that happen. So yeah, there's multiple ways, and I'm glad you bring that up.
Michael, I want to also mention another part of the endowment. When Ann and I retired from teaching in Utah in 2015, very, very dear friends of ours from San Antonio, Dr. Tarbox and Mike Bourne, doubled our endowment. They wrote a check and doubled our endowment.
Yeah.
And, just such great community to make sure that that program continued even after we were no longer a part of it.
Well, and it sounds like we're selling this program, because we are. And I wanted to celebrate the people who created this, but it's turning into this, and that's okay. But the other thing is, I've had many people who come from across the nation, Texas. I'm thinking of that teacher who would always send people from Texas, who said,
Right.
sending them to Utah, they get better training than if I were to send them to New York.
Yeah.
And so I continue sending
Churchill High School in San Antonio.
Yeah. So he would continue sending the people there, and then they would get here and they would say, it only costs this much. Now, you and I know that $1,000 class in the state of Utah, that's really expensive. And you also know that the majority of that goes for tickets and goes to house and feed the people, right? Because we're not paying a lot to the
college credit.
But you can't find that training for that price anywhere else. Plus, we have this scholarship on top of that. So thanks for ding, 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 ding. Thanks for. We actually have a couple more questions, and let me make sure that we get these. Actually, one, we says, are there ways that people can help nowadays? And I would just say, it's very easy. Whenever you buy a ticket to the Utah Shakespeare Festival, they will generally ask, would you like to add to, it's just a simple upsell. It's just a simple addition. And whatever, can we round this up to the nearest dollar? Can I put $10 in? And those nickels and dimes go into that scholarship fund. And you can also write a specific check to our development department and just mention, we would like this for the actor training program. Those are great ways that people can still help. So Tom, thank you for that question. Brian, do we have anything else that we want to ask these Socrates and Plato, while they're here?
Well, I do want to say, what has been so wonderful about this program is obviously your commitment to this, which is astounding and must be acknowledged, because it's you're already busy during the academic school year. Right? You were, during your the yearly work you were doing in your high school setting, but then to devote, a month of your time every summer to come to Cedar City and also carry on must be acknowledged, because that is, I think, the key ingredient, I think, to a lot of the success of this program was your devotion to the success of the program. And so for that, I'm incredibly grateful. I also want to say there have been actors from this program who have gone on to do great things and have been in our company, acting company, even so much in the last couple of years, students who have taken this training program and have gone on to do other things. But I did want to ask you, and I know we're sort of long on time right now, but you also have a unique perspective of the organization in 30 years. And, obviously, I think of Fred's energy and the impetus to create the organization was a lot of the sort of magic that this place really has, which I think a lot of people acknowledge. It's not only the organization, but it's the community. You mentioned the idea about Barb saying Cedar City, this beautiful little hamlet in the middle of Utah, to have this Shakespeare Festival. But what have been some key observation that you've had in the growth of the, your time here about just the festival? What are the things you take away from it that means something to you to have this commitment for so long?
Well, it's the joy of teaching. One of the things that I took away was that when we were working with the students, we would do a coaching them individually. It were those moments of aha that students had when you were working with them that was reward enough. There were the moments, we always did a dress rehearsal before the works in progress, and the change from the dress rehearsal to the moment when everything in the 10 days sort of fell into place, and in their presentation of the works in progress. Those are really rewarding moments. And seeing some of our students on the stage after they had taken the class. There are many of our students who were members of the company, either on stage or backstage at the festival. And that was pretty rewarding to see. I don't know if I should name them because I'm afraid I'd forget somebody.
That's all right.
Larry?
Well, for me, the amazing thing about the festival was, as I've stated, just the amount of openness, the accessibility, the willingness to let these two strangers from Arizona in and kind of do what we wanted to do and ask how they could help, and just that connection. It's just an overall feeling that's created, and resilience. The festival's had some challenges over the last 60 years. We saw the construction of the Randall Theater, the opening of the Randall Theater, the first productions. One of the most outstanding productions that I remember is Nothing Like the Sun with Patrick Page, who, by the way, our third year, Patrick Page, Scott, and Fred were the people who saw our students' works in progress and gave them comments afterwards. If you can imagine that. But so Nothing Like the Sun, and we were in the audience the day the power went out all across the western part of the United States, from Seattle and into Mexico. And Patrick Page, one-man show for those who don't know it, never skipped a beat. The crew brought lanterns out, and he continued. And the show was based on sound effects because they wanted to display the wonderful sound qualities of or capabilities of the new theater. And he went on without missing a beat and brought the house down. It was just a thrilling moment to be a part of. But those challenges, and then the challenges of of getting the funding and going forward with the construction of the whole new center, you know, and being a part of the grand opening of that. That was the year after we retired. And Fred said to us, don't you want to wait one more year? And we said, you know, 30 seems to be a good clean number. And so we came back for the opening of the new center, the Beverly Center. And, you know, what a thrill. We know it was a thrill for Fred, and it certainly was a thrill for us as well, to see the festival really reach its dream in having that kind of a, you know, first-class facility. So those challenges, but the results and rewards are terrific.
So great.
Cool.
Well, look, I mean, I know we need to probably sign off. From me, I love you both so much. I have known you my entire adult life, and I am so grateful for just your generosity of spirit, your friendship, but also your knowledge and passion and belief in me, but also the hundreds of students that you have impacted over the years, and artists. Teachers are the unsung heroes, you know, and I know I speak for so many people behind me who are like, thank you for that, because you unlock doors of possibility and understanding of self and knowledge that go with us for a lifetime. And to know that you have been doing this for 30 years is really a gift. It's been a gift for this organization, certainly for the education department, but also the hundreds of people that you guys have helped mold, and also just given your heart and soul to their development as humans.
It's been the highlight of our lives, certainly. Thank you, Brian.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very nice. Thank you, Brian.
Yes.
I do want to, and this is a great story. I'll make it short. I got a wonderful evaluation from a student. We had board members who took this class. We had all sorts of different people do it, but there was a student who that summer happened to take 4 other classes: leadership, you know, training, all these multiple classes. And at the end of the summer, she took this class, and her father came up to me and said that out of all of the classes they took, this was her favorite and the best for her, because it taught her about who she was. She said, I learned more about myself in that class than any of the other courses that I took that summer. So
awesome.
Thank you. Theater does that. We're grateful for that.
It does.
It was such a blessing to work with you in those years and to learn from you in those years. And so thank you so much. I want to tell our patrons who are very excited for next week as well, we're going to be talking about the role of production manager. And this is a really important role. And we have been so fortunate at USF to have multiple people in production management here, and also go on to serve in other leadership roles in other organizations. So next week, we're going to hear from Trevor Long, we're going to hear from Becky Merrill, and we're going to hear from Ray Inkle and the great Richard Gertain. We're going to be talking about the magic of production management and how you cultivate that creativity. So join us for that. Thank you to our sponsors, the Cedar City Bryan Head Tourism Bureau. You got a lot of plugs on Bryan Head today. So that's come on up. We'd love to have you. And the last thing I'm going to share is you can find recordings like this actually on our website. So go to bard.org, go down to the bottom of the page where it says Virtual Festival, click on that, and you'll find many, many other conversations. And we'd love to have you for all of these conversations. Thank you very much.
Also, enrollment for our education programs. You can find that on our website too.
Yep. And thank you, Tom, for shilling for us. But yeah, if you ever want to make a donation to keep those scholarships hopping, that's where they come. So thank you very, very, very much. Thank you, and God bless.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.